There are two versions of your life, the one you actually lived and the one your mind never stopped imagining. The career you almost pursued, the person you almost married, the city you almost moved to, the dream you promised yourself you would chase someday. Strangely, the second life often hurts more than the first. Not because it was real, but because your brain treated it as if it could have been. Maybe you've looked at an old message and imagined what your life would be like if you had answered differently. Maybe you've replayed one decision so many times that the imaginary version now feels more vivid than the real memory. Or maybe you've caught yourself mourning something you never actually had. If you've ever wondered why certain regrets refuse to disappear, why some breakups hurt for years, or why an opportunity you never took still feels strangely alive, the answer isn't hidden in your past. It's hidden in the life your mind quietly created alongside it. Because sometimes the hardest life to let go of is the one you never live. Most people think emotional pain comes from losing something real, a relationship, a job, a dream, a home. But the human brain doesn't only respond to reality, it responds to possibility. Long before anything happens, your mind begins building a future. It fills in missing conversations, imagines future birthdays, pictures future vacations, creates future versions of yourself. And the longer those imagined futures stay alive, the more emotionally real they become. That's why you can grieve someone who never truly became part of your life. Why an interview you didn't get can haunt you for years. Why saying almost sometimes hurts more than saying never. You're not irrational. Your brain simply doesn't separate imagined emotional experiences as cleanly as you think. It stores expectations alongside memories, which means losing a possibility can sometimes feel surprisingly similar to losing a reality. Imagine meeting someone new. Nothing extraordinary has happened yet, but your mind gets to work immediately. You picture future conversation, future holidays, future versions of yourself standing beside them. None of it is deliberate. It's automatics. The brain is constantly predicting what comes next because prediction helped humans survive. Every expectation creates a mental simulation. Most disappear quietly. Some become emotionally attached. The longer that simulation grows, the more your identity begins to include it. Without realizing it, you're no longer protecting the present. You're protecting a future that only exists inside your imagination. And when reality changes, it doesn't just erase a possibility. It tears apart an entire invisible world. That's why one text message, one rejection, or one unexpected ending can feel much bigger than the event itself. Because your brain isn't losing one moment. It's losing hundreds of imagined moments that never arrive. Failure has an ending. Almost doesn't. Think about it. If you know something was impossible, your mind eventually accepts it. But when something feels close, your brain keeps searching for another version where it worked. Maybe if I had waited one more week, maybe if I had spoken differently, maybe if I had accepted that opportunity, maybe if I hadn't been afraid. Notice what happens. Every maybe keeps the story alive. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the mind's tendency to leave unfinished experiences mentally active. The story never receives a satisfying ending, so your brain continues editing it again and again and again. That's why almost relationships often hurt longer than relationships that clearly ended. It's why dreams you never attempted can become more painful than dreams you genuinely failed at, because certainty allows grief. Possibility keeps hope alive, and hope, when attached to an impossible future, can quietly become its own kind of suffering. Comparison usually isn't between you and another person. It's between you and an imaginary version of yourself. The successful version, the fearless version, the version that made every perfect decision. Over time, that imaginary self becomes flawless. Why? Because reality has limits. Imagination doesn't. Your imagined life never experiences traffic, arguments, bills, illness, self-doubt. It never gets tired. It never makes mistakes. Your mind edits out every ordinary struggle. Then it compares your real life to a version that was never forced to face reality. No wonder the comparison feels unfair. It is. You're competing against perfection that only exists inside your own imagination. Imagine a woman named Sarah. At 24, she had two choices: accept a job overseas or stay home with the person she loved. She stayed. Years later, the relationship ended anyway. Now she finds herself thinking about that job, not occasionally, almost every day. She imagines a beautiful apartment, new friends, an exciting career, a happier version of herself. Eventually, she begins believing she chose the wrong life, but something important is happening. She's only imagining the best parts. She never imagines loneliness, language barriers, financial stress, homesickness, career setbacks. The imagined life becomes perfect because reality never had the chance to challenge it. She isn't comparing two real lives. She's comparing reality to a fantasy protected from disappointment. Many of us do exactly the same thing, not because we're weak, because that's how imagination works. Think about the version of your life you return to most often, the person, the opportunity, the dream, the place. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. Are you grieving what actually happened? Or are you grieving everything your mind believed would happen afterward? Those are very different losses. One belongs to reality. The other belongs to possibility. Sometimes we spend years trying to recover a future that never truly existed. We replay conversations that were never spoken, celebrate anniversaries that never arrived, miss children who were never born, homes we never lived in, versions of ourselves we never became. It's remarkable how deeply we can love a story that was never written. Healing doesn't begin when you forget. It begins when you recognize what you're truly mourning. Not every painful feeling points to something you lost. Sometimes it points to something you imagine, and imagined futures deserve compassion. But they shouldn't become prisons. The goal isn't to erase your dream. The goal is to stop asking reality to become a story it was never meant to tell, because every path closes thousands of others. That's true for everyone. The difference is that most of those unopened paths exist only in imagination. Once you understand that, regret becomes lighter, not because the past changes, but because you stop treating an imaginary life as your standard for happiness. There will always be another version of your life, one where every risk worked, every relationship lasted, every dream came true, every decision was perfect. Your mind can visit that place forever, but you can never live there. The only life capable of surprising you, teaching you, changing you, and becoming meaningful is the one unfolding right now. Perhaps the life you never lived wasn't stolen from you. Perhaps it was simply a story your mind created to remind you that being human means imagining possibilities. The tragedy isn't that those possibilities disappeared. The tragedy is believing your real life could never be enough because of them. And maybe the moment you stop chasing the life that never happened is the moment you finally begin living the one that did. If this perspective changed the way you see your own story, subscribe to Mirror Your Mind. Every week, we explore the hidden psychology behind the invisible worlds our minds create and how understanding them can help us see ourselves with greater clarity.